On today's episode of the iBuyer Experiment, I'm excited to bring on Adam Contos, the CEO of ReMax and author of Start With a Win, Tools and Lessons to Create Personal and Business Success. Thank you so much for being here with us today. Welcome, Adam.
Thanks, Kayla. I appreciate you guys having me here.
We are so excited. I have my hands on your new book, Start With a Win. I'm so excited. I got it yesterday and I went home last night, put my PJs on, curled up in bed, and I read it. I read all of it last night. It took me about 5 hours, but it was so worth it. And I laughed. I even cried. You got a tear out of me, Adam.
Wow. Hey, right on.
So it's such a good book. And in your story, just give us a little bit about your overview, your background, and how you came to be the CEO of ReMax.
Well, I took the long way around, I guess you could say. The day after graduate, so went to high school in Colorado here. I'm in Denver. For those of you watching the video, you can see over my shoulder here, that's the Denver skyline. And I grew up here. In fact, while I was in high school, I pumped gas at a gas station. I was a full service gas station person. 12 stories below where I'm sitting right now is where the gas station was. So a small world. Obviously haven't gone very far since then. But day after I graduated from high school, I went to Marine Corps boot camp. I needed it. I learned some structure in my life. I figured out that when you are focused and intentional, you can create success. I wanted to be a police officer. My dad was in federal law enforcement. So growing up, I got to watch police work firsthand. It was like watching the show Cops, I guess you could say, only living in the house of a federal law enforcement agent. And then just kind of started working my way through business and law enforcement. I was a police officer. I was also an entrepreneur. I started 2 businesses on my own. And then one day I met this guy named Dave Liniger, who's the co-founder of ReMax. And I was doing business with ReMax as a safety and security consultant. I was a Homeland Security instructor, counterterrorism instructor. And I created a real estate agent safety program that ReMax ended up purchasing and hired me to teach. Did that for about a year. Dave called me one night and said, "Hey, why don't you come work for me?" I said, "Dave, I run a SWAT team. I have the best job in police work. I get to drive fast. I get to go to fun calls." It's kind of a fun thing. And I had my own business. So I was making good money. He goes, no, why don't you come and learn from me? So I thought, wow, you can't pass up that opportunity. So I shut down my consulting business. I left law enforcement full time and started a ReMax, working directly with franchisees and agents, and worked my way up through the organization over a period of 15 years. I've been here going on 18 years full-time, 19 years as a consultant, and made it to the C-suite. It's through focused effort and hard work every single day, caring about the people around you and doing what you can to make a difference.
Wow. Yes. Well, you are making a difference, and reading your book is really a tactical how-to on achieving amazing things. So really cool. You've seen a lot. You've been in real estate now for, you said 19 years. And I'm curious, like for instance, 1000 Watt Research just came out with some data that said 77% of sellers would be willing to walk away from 5 to 11% of their equity for a non-traditional home sale, i.e. an iBuyer transaction. And we know the billions of dollars that are coming into venture capital that are hitting real estate, and the power buyers, the iBuyers. How do you feel all of this is changing the real estate space?
I look at iBuyers as cash buyers. I mean, that's ultimately what iBuyers are. They're cash buyers. There have always been cash buyers in the real estate space. So anybody who says iBuyers are new, it's how cash buyers are doing it is new. And I think ultimately you could say that how we're doing a lot of things in life is new. I mean, over COVID, we experienced 10 years of change in 3 months. And so evolution in business is nothing new. It's just how do we make those certain processes more convenient, more effective, things of that nature. And a lot of that is through clarity and communication that we have digitally. So when you take a look at iBuyers overall, and you look at that statistic, I don't argue with that statistic of saying, this many people said they would be willing to. The fact of the matter is you don't see that many people doing it. So, we talked about a couple of years ago, oh my gosh, iBuyers are coming in. Everybody on earnings calls, on the panels on stage, everything like that said, Adam, are you guys going to become an iBuyer? I'm like, no, we are a real estate franchise company and a mortgage franchise company. And we're going to continue to do that. Why? Because there's space for all of us in the space. So, ultimately what you do see is you see iBuyers becoming more efficient at what they're doing. I challenge you to show me an iBuyer who's profitable at this point.
Yeah.
But that's a function of business, is at some point you have to make a profit. But the reality is it's nice to have iBuyers in the space because it gives agents and consumers an option. Consumers like having an option, and they like to say, okay, I want to minimize the friction that I have in the transaction. I want my real estate agent, my expert, to help me minimize that friction, knowing that there's going to be some, and I want to understand what my options are. And I will make the best choice that I feel gives my family the greatest financial upside, the greatest ease and coordination of my timelines and family needs in this process. And so it's great that there are people like yourself that help facilitate that the agent understands and is able to utilize the process, and that the iBuyers exist in order to facilitate that end of the transaction when and if necessary for the consumer. So we all play together in a space together, at the same time, and we can share our sandbox. That's just the reality of it.
Well, it's definitely a very large sandbox. I think we could all agree on that. And ReMax, one of the largest real estate organizations across the country. I think you said you guys have 140,000 real estate agents, and just incredible. You guys are just an incredible brand. One of the things that you talk a lot about in your book, I think you referenced it a couple times, is your motto, more. Could you kind of expand on what more means?
So more is our value statement at ReMax. And everybody needs to have a value statement. They need to understand what it is, be able to recite it by memory, and live to it, for crying out loud. So we established a value statement when I took over as CEO 4 years ago here because we wanted to realign ourselves to our North Star, and I wanted to give it my voice so that everybody understood, here's what I am about. I think if you work in an organization, you need to know what the leadership of the organization is about, because truly that's what you're following, is that particular value statement. So we took a look at what are our values, and we did a lot of deep review, spent a lot of time in rooms looking at each other and reflecting on these things. What do they mean to our heart? What do they mean to our head? And we came up with the acronym of MORE, M-O-R-E. So what does that mean? The M stands for max, in deliver to the max. We want to deliver to the max for our customers and the consumer. Our customers being our franchisees, the agents, and the people that they work with. So, deliver to the max. Are you putting every bit of effort that you have into this? Because here's a fact, Kayla. Most people only put out about 25% of their effort when they're working. Believe it or not. It is crazy that we can reach down the side and bring up that other 75%. And that's really what the consumer wants from us when we are dealing with their largest transaction in their life. They want us to care. They want us to give everything we have. So we want to deliver to the max. So that's the M. The O, be customer obsessed. Obsessed is the O. What does that mean? That means we care with everything we've got. We really care. We are obsessed with doing the very, very best that we can. Obviously, it plays right in with deliver to the max, because those are hand in hand, that those two concepts work together. But we are obsessed with doing what is very best for the consumer, for the marketplace, for the industry, things of that nature. What's the R? The R is do the right thing. We are ethical, honest, upfront, transparent, trustworthy people. So do the right thing. R is right, and do the right thing. And then the E in more is everybody wins. And that's truly what should happen in a real estate transaction. There shouldn't be a winner and a loser in a real estate transaction. There should be a situation where everybody sees each other at the closing table and says, thank you. Thank you. This is what's best for all of us. So that's what we put together to represent the values of our organization. And that's the values of my life. That's, you can't kind of go to and from and switch back and forth here in life.
Sure. Yeah.
Pick a North Star and go after that and make sure they all, your thoughts and values align themselves. And so I decided when we, we're loud and clear about more, that I'm loud and clear about more as well.
I love it. One of the things you say in the book that it just rings very true to me is how you show up in one area of your life is how you show up in other areas of your life. And so when you explain your more and your values and reading through your book, and it's an incredible, incredible book. For those of you listening, seriously, you got to get your hands on a copy of this and read it. He tells so many amazing stories of being in the military, being in law enforcement, and these just incredible stories about learning to trust your gut and learning to take action. In fact, I wrote down a few words that kind of really stuck out to me as I'm reading it. And the first one is, I feel like it's a story of empowerment. You're very empowering. And just from the start, from the title of the book, Start with a Win, and from the first chapter, Start with a Win, you explain what a win looks like. If you could just take a little bit of time and explain to us what that looks like and what you mean by starting with a win.
Awesome. Well, you touched on something that I think is really important to me. You talked about how you do one thing is how you do all things. Living one part of your life reflects on all parts of your life. And that, for all the listeners here, that's incredibly important because we can't hide from ourselves. We can't hide from our tendencies. You can't go get in your car and drive down the road and road rage people and then go meet with a client and give them a big hug and go, I'm a great person.
You cannot. It does not work that way.
No. And it's the same. You can't, if you have kids, you can't get angry at something and go home and have your kids go, how's your day? And you go, great. You can't lie to yourself. So how you do one thing is how you do all things. That includes your health. That includes your relationships. That includes your business. That includes your finances. That includes your faith. Just pick something. And how you do one thing is how you do all things. So that's really important to me. Thank you for bringing that up. And a win. We all have opportunities to win. And these little micro wins turn into macro wins in our lives. So many people go through life just doing things. I look at them, every single thing we do is a little mission. And how we go through these missions determines the outcome. And you either win, which means you completed the mission based upon the desired outcome you had, or you lose in the mission. You didn't win the mission, but you learned during the mission. It's not, we've all heard the cliche, it's not wins and loses, it's wins and learns. Well, that's so true, because if you look at the opportunities and the challenges that are out there, we have opportunities to win and we have opportunities to learn about different things. Life isn't always going to serve you up a trophy for what you did, for crying out loud. You're gonna get served up some lessons as well.
That's right.
So it's a function of, you fell down, you scraped your knee, you pick yourself up, you go, wow, now I know there's a crack in the sidewalk, or my shoe was untied, or whatever it might be. But the reality is you learned about something that goes up here in the memory group, and we get to carry on with life. Goes for business. Not every deal turns out the way you want it. What did you learn? You gain that experience, reflect on it. That win may be everything from you got up and you made your bed. That's an automatic win, people. It's like starting the new school year. Your kids start the new school year with an A. Okay.
Yeah, they start off on the right foot.
Exactly. You all now have an A in my class, is what the teacher says. It's up to you to keep it. And we have wins and learns throughout that process. But the reality is, every single little thing we do in our day, every single thing we do in our life, we should look at and appreciate the opportunity to do it. Look for the opportunity in it. Look for the challenge in it. Have the right attitude and take action to create a result. That result
Love it.
is the win or the learn.
I love it. Win or learn. Well, I am a winner and a learner. I learn a lot. Something, you mentioned attitude, and I want to talk a little bit about the beast. Before we kind of get into the beast, though, I read an article, and, as a realtor, and for many realtors that are listening to this, you're probably reading things like I'm reading, which is the dying professions you may want to steer clear of. And you open it up and you see the number one thing is real estate agent, and all of these predictions about how, real estate agents are going to go extinct. And, sometimes it can be kind of hard to carry that positive attitude forward when you're reading all of this negativity about disruption in real estate. And so I wanted to just ask you, what is your advice for realtors who may be reading some of this stuff that is kind of negative?
Well, I just have to say, look around. I mean, there's a lot in society that's negative, and it's designed to knock you off your game. We are tested every single day, and we have things thrown at us that create a fear response in our world. And you're talking about the beast. Well, the beast is fear, and we'll get into that here in a moment. But realistically, life is not easy. Nothing is easy. It's challenging. It needs to be, because that separates those that are intentional versus those that are just trying to get by. That's why you have some people that are really good at something, and you have other people, and you kind of go, you're not even trying. You're really creating, the bottom of the level of achievement in our industry, whatever that might be. So the reality is, real estate agents have been told they're going to be extinct. They're going to be disintermediated. They're going to be disrupted. I mean, whatever word you want to throw at it, that's been going on for a long time. Since I've been in this industry, it's been going on. And it's still going on. But here's the reality. If you keep trying to get better and you continue to try and deliver value and create the greatest experience for your customer possible, you're not going out of business. You're going to grow your business. That's the differentiator right there. Take a look around. The real estate transaction is more complex than it ever has been. I think everybody realizes that. I remember, what was it, 2007 or 2005, 4, 5, and 6, when we had this boom and then we had the crash of, 7, 8, 9, 10. We'd go to these different conferences. Everybody's like, real estate agents are going out of style. They're going extinct, things like that. I'm like, guys, that was like a decade and a half ago. Get your act together. I mean, it hasn't happened. Our surveys show that more millennials than any other generation, the higher percentage of millennials, which is like in the low 90s, want to use a full-time professional real estate agent.
Sure. Yeah. I think NAR, their statistics show the same thing, that more consumers are using real estate agents, but yet we're hearing this rhetoric. And you mentioned that a lot of these headlines, they just incite the beast within us. And I always say headlines can do more to terrify than clarify. So let's talk a little bit about the beast. And what is the beast? Explain to us what that means.
Okay. So I was taught a long time ago by an amazing SWAT leader. And remember, that's the business that I come from is being on a SWAT team. A man named Bruce, who was a commander of a great SWAT team that I worked with for quite some time. And we were prepping for a very complex SWAT operation. And there was some fear in the minds of the SWAT operators and officers who were going to be executing this SWAT operation. And I mean, they're human beings like you or I or any of your listeners here that are thinking about this. If you just close your eyes, you can see yourself the same way as these SWAT officers. There's fear, doubt, and overwhelm in their minds and in their hearts going, I have to go do something that I don't know if I'm going to succeed at it. And I even remember back when I was a little kid, laying in bed in the dark, and you have to get up to go to the bathroom or get a drink of water or whatever it is, and you hear a noise and you're like, that's scary. I don't know what that is.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it's the beast. There's something in all of our heads that creates doubt as to whether or not we are safe or going to be successful in doing what we're going to do. So Commander Bruce labeled that the beast, and he got the team together before that operation. He said, look, listen up, everybody. Inside of all of your heads and in your hearts is this beast. For anybody here, it has a different appearance. It may be this bulging muscles with fangs and big claws, or it might just look like you in the mirror. But the reality is, inside of us is a creature that causes us to doubt ourselves, doubt our preparation, doubt our expertise, doubt our ability to accomplish something. And when you get to the point right before execution, right before you need to do what you need to do, that beast is going to come at you because you're about to enter the room with the beast. That beast is there. And you have to make a decision. Is that beast going to take away your power to do what you know you can do and execute flawlessly, not miss a step, not miss a point, not miss a pitch to a client, or, a challenge in life, or, an apology over an argument, whatever it might be? That beast is going to be there to try and disrupt that. And you can sit here and you can go, I'm gonna let that beast win. Or you can say, I'm gonna go in that room and me and that beast are gonna be best friends, and I'm gonna party with that beast, and we're gonna have a great time, and I'm gonna do everything I can because that beast is there to help me, because that beast is a realization that I know what I am and what I need to do. So you have to decide, are you gonna party with the beast? And that's what it comes down to. You have to make a decision.
Are you going to party with the beast?
That's it.
I love it. I love it. And in your book, you have that excerpt from Bruce, very touching. What you shared that Bruce wrote was very touching. So good. So good. You guys have to read it. It was amazing. And that was how it ended. Are you going to party with the beast?
Yep. I'll tell you what, Kayla, every time I think about, can I do this? It doesn't matter what it is. I close my eyes and I just think about this, and I can hear Bruce say, are you going to party with that beast? And I just say back, party with the beast.
That's right. Let's have a rager. Let's do this.
That's right.
Well, also interesting, I discovered, I didn't know you had a podcast, and you have a podcast, Start with a Win, great podcast. And so I listened to a couple episodes. And I think you and the guy that you were on with used an analogy of, it's like that house party that you have when you're a teenager, and like you only invite 4 people, and then all of a sudden, like
everybody shows up.
Everybody's there.
That's right.
Yeah.
So, well, thank you. And by the way, for everybody, Start with a Win, startwithawin.com. You can check out the podcast and the book at the website.
Such good content that you're giving out. And one of the things too that I loved reading is you mentioned a business coach that I've coached with in the past, John Cheplack. And you mentioned some of the things that he shared. And one of the things that just really sticks with me is just giving freely giving your information. In fact, I have a coaching call with some realtors across the US, and we were just talking about this yesterday. I looked up on Google Trends, and one of the trending search terms for sell my house is, how to sell my house without a realtor. Like people it's trending. It's up like 200% or something. And so I thought, why not make content around how someone could go about selling their house, and let them discover that it's a complex, laborious, and requires the skill of a full-time professional. And so we were kind of talking about that concept, but it's something you touch on in your book as well. So share with us like what you mean by giving freely, and then how, we can translate that and be tactical about that in our businesses.
Great question, Kayla. There are 2 emotions that we function from, and Cheplack talks about these a lot. There's fear and there's love. And fear is fight, flight, or freeze. It is making excuses. It is avoiding things. And it is trying to hide your value essentially from the marketplace, thinking I'm only going to sell my value to the marketplace and I'm going to hide it until somebody pays for it. But the reality is people don't want that. They want to trust somebody who's willing to give to them unconditionally. So love is unconditional giving. And ultimately what you see the greatest business successes evolve and emerge from is people who are willing to step in and give their very best advice away for free. I mean, in real estate, we're not losing anything, people, because here's the reality. I mean, you're helping them with his contract. And in real estate, think about this. We only have one product in real estate, everybody. Listen up if you're a realtor. It's a house, okay? You might go, well, there's land and there's a building. The reality is it's a piece of real estate. Okay. But realistically, there are many ways they can do this. Who are they going to choose? The one who can do it best for them. How are they going to know you can do it best for them? Because they realize that because you're giving them the very best advice ahead of time. So rule of thumb in business, give away your best thing that you can give away and people will pay you for the rest. So just think about that. And your marketing should be giving away value. Give value all day long. By the way, Kayla and I give away these podcasts. Why? This is value. What does it do? It helps you. What happens when somebody helps you? They reciprocate that value. You'll tell somebody about my podcast, Kayla's podcast. You'll learn about Zoodealio's platform and how that works and what benefit that has to your business. I have a book. You're welcome to buy it. Things like we want to give you stuff, and you're going to go, wait, I like these people. I want to do business with them. That's what life is about, and that's what the consumer looks for too. It's called reciprocity.
I love it. Such a powerful concept. And I love how you just really break it down in your book and just really make it easy to understand and easy to take those concepts and then implement them. I mentioned that there were 3 kind of words that stuck out to me. And the first one was empowerment. You really empower us to believe that we too can achieve these incredible things just like you have. And then the other word that, in fact, I started circling it because I started to see it over and over and over again. And that word is action. Action, 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 action. I mean, over and over and over again, it was a theme throughout the whole book. And so I know that the beast prevents a lot of us from taking consistent action in our business. But if you could just share with us, how can we silence that beast and take that consistent action in our business and be consistent?
Oh my gosh, great question. And you're right. I mean, there's one solution to fear, doubt, and overwhelm. Just one solution. And Kayla, you hit the nail on the head. That solution is action. No matter what it is. I mean, psychologically, if you look at, like Mel Robbins and counting backwards from 5 to take action. Mine is party with the beast and take action. The reality is nothing happens until you take action. And you have zero control over your future until you take action. You have no benefit in your business until you take action. So, I mean, the reality is figure out what the challenge is, get the right attitude, and take action in order to accomplish those things. And just writing down that word action and putting on a sticky note and putting on your monitor. I mean, is that action to turn off social media? Is that action to call a client? Is that action to pick up the phone and call another realtor that you're working on a deal with, a lender, whatever it is, take action because nothing happens without it. Great point. And I want to touch on empowerment. So we have 2 E's in our world. One is empowerment. The other one is enablement. What is enablement? Enablement is allowing people to get away with not taking action. Empowerment is encouraging and developing action-taking steps. So
that was good. That was so good. So good. I'm like,
thank you.
Woo, so say it again.
Enablement and empowerment. I mean, the reality is if we're enabling ourselves to get away with things, to not take action, not get things done, we get what we get. We deserve what we tolerate is ultimately what it boils down to. I mean, what are you tolerating? What are you enabling? And I look at, I have 3 college-age kids, and am I going to enable them to get away with not doing the work in life? No, I'm going to empower them to do the work. And you know what it shows? It shows in their results because they took action. So think about empowerment and enablement and how that leads to action.
Oh, I love it. Because you also talked about how, most of the people that are around us are they're okay being average, really. And they're okay being mediocre, and how we cannot tolerate that in our lives and in our organizations. And I agree with you. I 100% agree with you. As a leader, because the third word that kind of really stuck out with me was leadership. Leadership was a theme. You've clearly wrote this book to inspire other leaders, and I can see the theme through every page was about how can I empower, how can I get people to take action, and how can I create more leaders through this book. And so for me, those takeaways are so powerful. But when it comes to leadership, you mentioned a relationship with the co-founder of ReMax, Dave, and you talk about how back when you were in law enforcement, he would go on ride-alongs with you. And so I'm thinking to myself, okay, so you've known this guy for a long time. And how did you meet him? Like, how did that even come to be? I'm curious about that.
That's a great question. The Dave and Gail, his wife, were building a golf course south of Denver, a mountain golf course. And mountain golf course, there's like cliffs and pine trees everywhere and mountains and things like that. And the golf course weaves through it. And this was in the mid 90s, like 95 and 96. And they had hired police officers to sit out there at night to protect the place. People would come out and would damage things, steal, equipment, golf carts, whatever. And I picked up a shift there because I thought, this would be kind of cool. I'll sit out there all night long. It's in the wilderness. I'm a fan of the outdoors. And I'm sitting there at like 2 a.m. Here comes this brand new white Suburban pulling in. This guy hops out, and it's Dave. He goes, "Hi, I'm Dave." And I go, "Hi, I'm Adam." I go, "Why are you here?" He goes, "This is my golf course." I go, "Oh, that's cool. Thanks for having me here." And he asked me, he goes, "Do you hunt?" I said, "Yeah, I hunt. It's Colorado. I'm in the wilderness." Yes. And he goes, "All right, well, let's go four-wheeling and see if there's any porcupines that we need to get rid of because they damage the trees on the golf course. Porcupines kill pine trees. I had no idea.
Oh, I didn't either.
Yeah, they eat like a ring around the top of the tree and it kills the tree. And I'm like, you don't want that happening on your beautiful golf course here. And so we were driving around. We didn't see any porcupines, but we got stuck in his new Suburban. We're driving up this really steep hill and 4 low out in the middle of nowhere. It's dark, and this big strip of plastic wraps around the bottom of the car, the drive shaft, makes this big ball of plastic, and we get stuck on a steep hillside.
Oh, dear.
Middle of the night. I'm thinking, what are we going to do? He puts it in park. He goes, and I look at him, and he looks at me, and we both said, "Got a knife?" at the same time. So we hopped out, and we're laying under the car for a long time with our flashlights. Like, put your flashlight in your mouth and sitting there cutting off of this. And,
wow.
It was fun. We got to know each other, and then he started coming and riding along with me and watching how I commanded different situations that I was in. I had a computer. We have little computers in our police cars. I had a phone. I had a two-way pager. I had a radio, all these different communication techniques, and how I worked with the people that I was with, and how I wanted them to be better, how I wanted to help them, to empower them to make decisions and things of that nature. And it was interesting because it turned into a mentoring relationship. And one of the key things that Dave always told me was be a sponge. And I'm like, what does that mean? He goes, go learn something every day. And I said, oh, all right, so sponge, go find something to learn. He goes, that's only the first part. The second part is give it back. Sponges soak things up and they give things out. And I said, oh, that's smart. So I made it my focus to go learn something about leadership and leading and give it back every day. Because here's what I learned, Kayla. Dave told me that being a leader means nothing unless you are actively engaged in the action of leading. So it doesn't matter what your position is in life. If you are not leading, meaning you are giving knowledge, helping people grow, get better, solve their problems, empowering them to make decisions, things of that nature, you're not a leader, folks. It's a title on your business card. It's not something that, the leadership fairies come and sprinkle leadership dust on you. Does not work in life. You actually have to take the actions in order to lead. So that's really been a great deal of the mentor time that I've spent with him. And I can't tell you how many courses I've done with the man where I sit there and watch him learning to go lead and give back as well.
That's so cool. It's so neat. And I can tell that you have a deep love and respect and appreciation for him. by the words that you write about him and in your book. And so that was really cool to read. There's so many people that have poured into me and poured into my life. And I know that Dave was one of those for you. So it was really, really cool to read that and read about him. About leadership, you give a lot of very sound, principle-based advice on how to be a leader. And I think that being a leader starts with leading yourself. And one of the things that you mentioned is you get up every morning at 4:30, except for 2 days a week where you wake up at 5:30. And you mentioned some habits, I believe, that set you up for success, some systems. In fact, in one part of the book that you mentioned at home around the fire pit in the backyard with your kids and your wife, you guys were having like a book club of atomic habits. And I'm just sitting there going like, can I like be part of this? Like, this sounds amazing. Like, I want to be in on that. But talk to us about how you've created habits that serve you and what that looks like.
Wow. First of all, Kayla, I just want to say you're really good at interviewing people because you're making me reflect on some of the deepest moments in my life. And I know a lot of them are written in the book, but this is fantastic. The habits that we have are just chisel strikes to create what we become. I mean, it's like we're sculpting ourselves. And what do those habits look like is the question we all have to ask ourselves. Whenever I think about what is this doing for me, I always think to myself, hold up the mirror. And you need to look at yourself and say, what is this doing to me, for me, with me, for those around me, things of that nature. And I wanted to go back through Atomic Habits, and I wanted to, do something with my kids so we could focus on creating success in our lives, because this was right at the beginning of COVID that we would do book club. And it was fantastic. I ordered a whole bunch of copies of the book, and everybody got it, and we would sit down and have a chapter, for a week that we would talk about. And it was fascinating because it created a vulnerability amongst, and my kids are all in college, by the way, so I'm dealing with adults here. And as we all know, I think adults are a little more challenging to deal with than children to a great extent. But ultimately, it came down to us creating vulnerability and transparency in our lives and sharing those things with each other and helping each other get better. What is that? That's leadership. They're leading each other. And for me, the dad who's the CEO of the company, who they're like, hopefully they look up to me. I'm told that they do. But they're looking at it.
Yeah.
They're giving me advice. And I'm like, thank you. Thank you. That means a lot that you're observing those things and delivering them to me, because that's incredibly valuable. I'll tell you, when you run a company, not many people walk in your door and go, hey, you need to work on this. But for your 19, 20, 21-year-old kid to go, Dad, you need to work on this. I mean, talk about just a punch in the nose, and you're like, whoa, thanks. That's awesome. And, we learned a lot about each other. We learned a lot about ourselves. But ultimately, what we did was we learned a lot about how to talk to other people to deliver feedback and create ideas that create results, how to create wins. And that's all. That's what Atomic Habits by James Clear. Great book, everybody. If you haven't read it, I encourage you to go read it. Then go read it again. The best books you find yourself reading 2 or 3 times because you're like, oh my gosh, I got to go back and look at that again. So it's a good book, but ultimately it's a good experience if you can pull your family into enjoying that opportunity together and really learn about each other. So we don't live alone in life. We're all part of this blue planet that interacts with each other and helps each other get better. And it's a great way to do that.
For sure. Yeah. We're all connected, right? And I think, one of the things about what you're sharing now and what you shared in the book is that you're very vulnerable. You'll be very vulnerable and you'll share these things. And you mentioned that vulnerability, it's tricky because I forget how you worded it, but something that, when you're vulnerable, you have to be careful that someone doesn't use that against you. Talk to us a little bit about that, what that means, because, reading through your book, you do share those personal stories and you are very vulnerable. And so how do you do that in a healthy way?
The interesting part about vulnerability is that you're right. People that have wrong intentions will use it against you as a lever. But you have to be strong and vulnerable at the same time. And that's hard for a lot of people because so many of us in life, we have the beast that we're carrying around, on our shoulder. We're walking in the shadow of the beast at that point. And it's hard to be vulnerable because we're afraid of everything. But if we're confident and we're strong when we're vulnerable and we own what we say and how we do it, and we're honest with ourselves and with other people, I mean, the reality is you find out that it's okay. And we don't have to hide things. We're not internalizing fear. So really, I mean, when it comes down to it, that's what we're battling with here when it comes to our ability to be vulnerable, transparent, is trusting ourselves to trust other people. And we're afraid of those other people because of the potential of that trust being violated. But it's going to happen. It's going to happen at some point. And you know what we need to say? I'm me. And if they want to attack me for being me, then they're the one with the problem. Mm-hmm. So, it's also kind of a check and balance in our lives. Are we being good human beings? Because you don't see, a thug standing up going, hey, I did this wrong and this wrong. And no, I mean, the people who are really violating the sanctity of our society and really, acting in a nefarious manner and doing things wrong and hiding from them, they're not going to be transparent and open with those things until the moment that they get to reflect on that in their life. Live the life that you're proud with, about being put on the front page of the newspaper, I guess, is what you could say. Or the other one is, do you want somebody calling your mom and saying, hey, guess what Adam did? And what's the response? And I think about that a lot because, and my mom's probably going to listen to this podcast, but it's true. Let's be out there. And, I'm not saying don't have a personal life, but I'm a CEO. I don't get a personal life. So I get to live this way. When I was a police officer, everybody wants a personal life because you don't want somebody following you home and doing something to your house or your family or whatever. But, I don't get a personal life. So I'm proud of the one that I have and I'm willing to share it. And so should you.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. I got to ask you, is Kelly Contos, is that your wife?
That is my wife, my lovely, beautiful love of my life.
Oh, well, I got to give it up to her for having the best quote in the book. It's, you can't tell someone the truth when they believe they already know it.
Yeah.
I laughed when I read that. I was like, ooh, she is good.
She's really good, Kayla. She's like, you've got, it's like somebody's a referee in your life and they blow the whistle and you're like, hey, and you go, oh, yep, you're right.
Yep.
Thank you for shining a light on my thoughts. And, but that is such a profound quote though. And I remember one time we were talking about somebody who was attacking somebody else. I don't remember if they were attacking us or whatever it was, but it's like, don't argue with people. It doesn't do any good because they believe they know the truth and that's why they're arguing their point. And if they believe they already know their truth, you can't tell them yours. So you just go, thank you for sharing your passion. Move on.
100%. I agree. 100%. So great book. I'm just so honored that I have my hands on one of the early copies and you can get yours too. We're going to give you the way to do that. Adam, as we end today's podcast, I want you just to share with us what you think the future of real estate looks like from your perspective in leading ReMax and all that you do. What does the future of real estate look like?
Great question, Kayla. And thank you for having me on the podcast to begin with. And I appreciate all of your listeners and your organization for all you guys do in the industry. The future of real estate is, and all industries go through this. Industries are allowed to become complacent with the level of experience and service that they provide to customers. And that's when customers, industry around them, whatever you want to call them, a lot of people call them disruptors, something like that, come in and start kind of pushing on an industry and saying, you're going to go away. But really what we're hearing is raise your game. I mean, up your game and get better at what you do and provide a greater experience to the consumer. Because what you see is a need for evolution. We saw a need for evolution in society when COVID hit, and it wasn't just real estate. It was, I could go pull apart probably 20 different industries and say, same thing that we're going through in real estate. But ultimately what it means is get better and give more. And that's what the consumer wants. The consumer is demanding experts. Be an expert in our space. If you're an expert in our space, you've got a great future. If you're not, you're going to be wondering what your future looks like. So that's ultimately what I would say to everybody in the real estate space, is that's what the consumer demands. So step it up, folks. Let's raise the bar. Let's not get into this just because we want a commission check. Get into this because you want a career of being an expert. It's the difference between showing up and putting a Band-Aid on something and becoming a heart surgeon. Let's go become heart surgeons. So that's what I have to say about the future of real estate. It depends on everybody that's listening to this to make it a better place.
Well, that is so wonderful. Thank you again so much, Adam, for being here. Thank you for writing this book. You have inspired me. I'm going to read it again. So many amazing nuggets. You're going to be able to get your hands on a copy. We're going to tell you how in just a moment. But thank you again so much, Adam. We appreciate you.
Thanks, Kayla. Thank you. And thanks to Zoodealio for having me on, and all you listeners. Go grab a copy of the book, and we'll talk to you soon.
Want to get your hands on a free copy of Start With a Win from the CEO of ReMax, Adam Contos? Click the link in my bio, fill out the quick form, and we'll ship it to you straight away. I am excited to bring on Adam Contos, the CEO of ReMax and author of Start With a Win, Tools and Lessons to Create Personal. Okay. Want to get your hands on a free copy of Start With a Win? Forgot the name of the book. Want to get your hands on a free copy of Start With a Win by the CEO of Adam. Want to get your This is when I need a teleprompter. I could crush it if I had a teleprompter.